are ready, we can start. Welcome.
Yes, sir. Thank you very much for having me as a chair. Now, as we can go as per the schedule. Mr. Alechino is going to present the topic, the impact of African Continent Free Trade Agreement. You can go ahead, sir. Mr. Alechino, are you ready? Hello?
Yes, I am.
Okay, sir, you can go ahead with your presentation.
Okay, thank you very much. So can you see my presentation? Can you see it?
Not at the moment.
Not at the moment. Okay, sorry. Can you see it now?
Yes.
Okay, good.
Yeah.
Okay, fine. So my name is Benedict Ebenezer Alechino. The topic of my presentation is the impact of African Continental Free Trade Agreements. I will go straight to the introduction. So, the African Continental Free Trade Agreements has been the wishes and dreams of the founding fathers of the African Union. So, by introduction, the birth of African Continental Free Trade Agreement, which came into effect on the 1st of January 2021, has huge positive impact on the continent. The implementation has brought enormous economic growth in African countries, just by policy pronunciation alone. African Continental Free Trade Agreement is the world's largest trading bloc since the creation of the World Trade Organization in 1994. It has actually united 1.3 billion people, and with an annual trade potential of over $4 trillion. The implementation of AfTA has increased the movement of people across the sub-region ahead of the planned introduction of the Continental Passport. In all paradigms, African Continental Free Trade Agreement has unlocked the growth and development potentials tied down for decades. This is a gigantic step towards the actualization of the 4 cardinal principles laid out by the founding fathers of the African Union, which are the economic, political, social, and technological integration. The unity of African countries solely depends on the economic integration brought about by the implementation of the AfTA. AfTA is the panacea that will take African continent out of the Abjad poverty, underdevelopment, and low standard of living. The free trade agreement is a win-win situation for all African countries. The free trade agreement has boosted trading activities, production capacity, employment aggregate, and income gains. Then the background of the study. The roots of the AfTA, African Continental Free Trade Agreement, can be traced back to the 1980 Lagos Plan of Action and a plan in 1991 to launch the African Economic Community. African leaders have demonstrated that the continent can only achieve its developmental goals through massive intra-regional trade among the 55 African countries without barrier. Then we have 5 major regional economic group in Africa. We have the AMU, which is the Arab Maghreb Union. We have the Common Money of Eastern and South African, which is COMASI. We have the Economic Community of Central African States, which is the ECAS. We have the Economic Community of West African States, which is ECOWAS. We have the Southern African Development Community, which is the SADC. Then the various regions of this economic bloc has one objective: integration, 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 politically, economically, and technologically. Then the background of the study continues. Some of the African Union economic communities have actually laid a groundwork for this African Continental Free Trade Agreement. Take, for example, the bigger countries in the African countries, like Nigeria, Kenya, Ivory Coast, Cote d'Ivoire. The smaller African units, countries within these sub-regions, look upon them and carry out trading activities. So each of these big countries like Kenya, Senegal are like a hub in their sub-regions. Then the first phase of the African Continental Free Trade Agreement was signed in Kigali, Rwanda, on the 21st of March, 2018. After treaty is one of the flag point indicative of African Union Agenda of 2063, aimed at creating a single continental market for goods and services with free movement of business person, investment, and the hope of creating a single currency on the continent. Then the methodology used. Secondary data were used for a concise and precise analysis of this paper. Like the table here, we use the regional traits in percentage of their GDP from 2014 to 2018. So the world were grouped. We have Sub-Saharan Africa, we have East Asia and Pacific, Europe and Central African Asia, Latin America and Caribbean, Middle East and North Africa, then the North America, then we have the South Asia. Then analysis of the analysis of the results. We have the cluster charts showing the volume of the trade among the African countries between 2014 and 2018. So we have in 2014, African countries experienced the highest trading activities, due in part because there was Nigeria, South Africa, and other African countries, which are major exporters of crude and all that. The price of the crude was relatively stable at the international market, so the market was flourishing, and the other African sub-regions within them patronized them much. Then there was a sharp decrease in the volume of trade between 2015 and 2016, as shown here on the table. While in 2018, there was an increase. So the trading activities picked up, and so the volume of the trades increased from 50.87 to 53.63 billion. Then data analysis continued. Cluster bar chart showing the 7 intra-regional trades as a percentage of their GDP. So during the period under review, Middle East and the North Africa are the most highly integrated among the group, followed by the Europe and the South Asia. Then the two most, then the Sub-Saharan African countries witnessed its highest volume of trade between 2014, only in 2014, up to the tune of 57.9 billion. Then conclusion. Recent launched African Continental Free Trade Agreement is the most viable way the dreams of the founding fathers of the African Union can actualize its dreams in no distant time. Then the prime or overarching objective behind the AFCA is to eliminate or reduction with the taxes or non-taxes barrier among the 54 African countries that agreed to be members of the bloc, and a single market for goods and services facilitated by the movement of the people and economic integration and prosperity. The formation of AFTA is the African Continental most ambitious integration initiative embedded in the agenda of 2063 of the African Union, whose main objective is to create a single continent market for goods and services with free movement of people, investment, thus expanding intra-African trade. The better after, investors can now enjoy both freedom of establishment and freedom of services, meaning that if you set up a company in Nigeria, you don't need to necessarily go and register the same company in Ghana any longer. So they can operate in Ghana successfully That is the freedom of establishment and the freedom of service. Then conclusion continue. After it's expected to increase intra-African trade from existing level of about 13% to 25% through better harmonizations and coordination of trade liberalization within the next 2 years. And this is driven forward by the complementary single African air transport market and the protocol-free movement of people. After it's expected to unlock the unlocked, to tap the untapped human and material resources through trade liberalization and abolition of barriers to trade. The share of intra-African trade remain low. Unlocking Africa's full economic potential would require economic integration from all sides, globally, regionally, as well as the rural, urban areas. Thank you very much for your listening.
Thank you, Mr. Acheno. Now, the floor is for audience. You can raise the questions if you have.
Yes.
If there is no question, we can go with the next presenter. I guess there is no question for you, Mr. Alachmo. So shall we go with the next presenter? Yes, Ms. Sochiva is ready. If Sochiva is ready, we can go with the next presentation.
I think she's not here. But I'm not sure.
Okay, sir. Then I can go with my presentation next, if she's not available.
Yeah, please. Yeah, please.
Okay, sir. Shall I share my slides? I have chosen the topic, how organization structure and management practice related factors are associated with heavy workload of sanitary workers. The reason for choosing this topic is that it is part of my postdoctoral degree program, and I have closely worked with sanitary workers in my industrial period. I worked in a hospital as administrative officer, so I got a chance to closely look at their issues and their challenges. So I chose this topic to analyze how these factors are associated with their heavy workload. I have undertaken this study in Tamil Nadu, Tirunelveli city of India. The reason is the study area is underdeveloped and the employee turnover rate of sanitary workers is very high. Moreover, the absenteeism rate and the rate of falling in sick also is very high. When we analyze what are the various reasons behind this, there are many reasons, but I have chosen only two factors, how these two factors are associated with their heavy workload. One is how the organization structure related factors and practice related factors cause heavy workload. In the study area, most of the sanitary workers comes from uneducated background and lower income as well as lower caste issues, lower caste background. Due to this reason, they are given too much work without proper salary. Moreover, they are not aware of who they have to report to. They may have to report to 2 or 3 bosses at the same time. So they allocate different workloads, which increases their workload. Second, there is a high discrimination in their salary and increment. As I said, the reason is the illiteracy and their lower caste community. Moreover, the managers of this department are appointed from unprofessionally qualified employees. They are not knowing how to handle these people. They talk with them very autocratically, without any proper respect, very harshly. These factors over the time push them to leave from the organization. In addition to this, the organization very often change their policies and procedures in their work, and they are not properly communicating to them. The reason is, as I said earlier, their community background and their literacy. In addition to this, they are not given proper orientation at the time of work, and they are not given enough communication with regard to how to do the work, how to safeguard themselves from their work-related hazards. Over the period, they not only relieve from the organization because of the heavy workload, but also because of this partiality, autocratic leadership style, and domination. So I chose these factors to analyze how they are associated with their heavy workload. As I said earlier, I have analyzed the perception of sanitary workers towards various organization structure related factors and management related factors and how they cause heavy workload. I have chosen this study. The study area is Tirunelveli city, which is one of the district and place in South Tamil Nadu of India. The research methodology section is, I have chosen it is an empirical study since I have applied all my experiences which I had in my industrial practice. I have chosen 80 sanitary workers from private multi-specialty hospital. I have used convenience and judgment sampling. Primary data I chose with the help of questionnaire by the method of schedule method. I used simple percentage method to analyze the data. Analysis and interpretation. The data proved majority of the respondents are female. They are in between 35 and 40 years of age. They are married. They have 2 years and 4 years of experience, and they earn 5,000 to 7,000 Indian rupees. I used percentage method to analyze the various factors related with organization structure and management related factors. All factors I discussed in this study, such as complex organization structure, lack of communication, inadequate orientation, and unclear communication about work process and safety instruction, how they are allowed to participate in the departmental as well as organization decision making, frequent changes made in the organization policy. These all factors have been strongly agreed by the majority of the respondents that they are fully associated with their heavy workload. Based on this analysis, I have given recommendation how to reduce the heavy workload of the sanitary workers and also how to retain them in the organization for longer time. I have suggested that the organization should clearly make their organization structure. That is, to who they have to communicate, to who they have to get instruction from. Then the managers should clearly give instruction about the task when they newly assigned to them and how they are associated with their work as well as their department and also their organization. Clear instruction and orientation should be given with regard to their work process and safety aspects because they are fully physically doing their work. And they are also dealing with various chemical related hazards. So the managers and also the top level management should take more effort to give them clear communication and instruction with regard to their safety aspects. And also the sanitary workers should be allowed, should be encouraged to take part in the organization decision-making process. For example, how to improve their workload, how to reduce their workload, how to enhance their safety process, what are the challenges they are facing, what kind of time schedule they need. The manager should talk with them and give them as much as possible what they can do to their sanitary workers, so that to make them motivated. And whenever the organization make new rules and policies and regulation, they should communicate with the sanitary workers in advance properly, so that they can enable them and equip them to adapt to those newly changed policies. And sanitary workers should be given adequate welfare facilities. Since they are fully working physically, they should be given enough room for taking rest, separate washroom, etc., etc. Leadership approach is also very important. The manager should not be behaving very autocratically, since they are uneducated, since they have come from lower caste community. They should always motivating them. They should give them room to give their opinions. There should be no discrimination on the basis of religion, caste especially. The employees must be, sanitary workers must be given adequate salary accordance with their experience, skill, contribution. And also, there should be no discrimination in terms of their salary, the incentive, the other benefits the employees are offered. By doing this, not only the management can keep the employees happy and satisfied, but also they can reduce their workload and also retain them for longer period. Thank you. I'm waiting for your questions.
Thank you, Dr. Rajan.
Yes, sir. I'm waiting for your questions, sir, please.
Yeah, any question? If you have any question, you can ask to Dr. Rajan.
So if there is no question, we can go with the next person if he is ready, Madam A.A. Sochiva. If she is ready, we can go with the next presenter. If there is no question. Is Madam Sochiva is ready? So thank you.
Okay, thank you for all of you. We are closing this
Thank you,
session.
sir.
Thank you, Dr. Rajan, for your session chair.
Thank you, sir.
And
Thank you
for
very much.
your presentation. We will start at 2 p.m. in London time for closing and networking session. We are waiting you, but we are here. If you want to speak each other, you can. We are here. We will start at 2 p.m. Thank you. Thank you.